Hey everyone, Razzbowski here, and welcome back to Fredbears Legacy. The last chapter was absolutely fantastic. If you missed out on it, you want to go and check it out, there will be a link around about my head just now. Trust me, it was awesome. Anyway, we're moving on to Chapter 3, The Receiving End. I opened my eyes into something familiar yet dreadful. I was inside Fredbear's once again, and a sense of fear swept over me. I saw the child squirming inside the mouth of Fredbear, the children donning the masks. Everything was exactly the same like it always was. I prepared myself for the same nightmare, but I noticed something moving in the far corner of my eye. I unfocused my vision from the child through the party hats and balloons surrounding the north part of me, until I finally reached the corner of the room, where something caught my attention. There was something standing there, staring blankly into the distance before moving its head slowly towards me. The figure was blurred to the point that I couldn't make out a single detail besides it being taller than the average child. Was it an adult? Was it an employee? I couldn't put my finger on it. Then, the figure darted straight at me. I didn't have enough time to close my eyes as it travelled at speed no human can possibly dare to go. Surprisingly, I didn't feel a single thing. And then the repetitive sounds of the children laughing disappeared. I then opened my eyes into something a bit more comforting. My home. I could hear the birds chirping and the distant cars driving down the road, and I was relaxed to be back home. I would have to do something about these nightmares, but I didn't know exactly what yet. Regardless, I pulled out my phone, ready to check the time when I realised something. I was late! It was 1 hour past the usual time I arrive, and I began immediately to get ready. I must have been more tired than I thought, as the girl kept me up most of the night, but I knew I should keep my thoughts on what time it was instead. But a thought struck me. I would have to tell her about the girl, wouldn't I? Nevertheless, I continued down my apartment and directly outside. It was partially cloudy, but then I realised something. It was snowing, a pretty but rare sight in this town. Luckily, only an inch of snow was visible, and I was slightly terrified that my car would be covered in it. However, my car was pleasantly sitting underneath the light shadows created by the sun, which still barely managed to peek from the clouds above, with barely any sight of snow except a small amount on the hood and the window that could easily be wiped off from a sleeve. And I was anxious to quickly get inside. I moved as close as I could to my car, steadily wiping off any bit of snow that I could see. Then, thankfully, I managed to quickly get in the car. Hopefully Darla wouldn't be angry if I grabbed something to eat at a cafe place not too far from my building. After all, I was starving. I didn't eat any dinner last night, a small detail but enough to make me sick. And so I approached the cafe in hopes that not a lot of people were there. However, I underestimated how long it takes to get any food made in this damn town. It was a good 15 minutes before I even pulled out. My mind was now racing even more. The thought of Darla standing around and waiting was enough to make me more uncomfortable. I hoped Darla wouldn't be angry at me, as well as no clients showing up while I was gone. En route, however, I expected a chorus of traffic rushing in every direction, and instead, to my surprise, barely anyone was on the road. I immediately felt relieved, but I knew it wasn't over yet. I would have to see Darla's angry face and tell her about last night. I finally pulled up to my building and began to check the time on my phone. It was 8:10, now an hour and 10 minutes past my usual arrive time. I had to leave the car now, and so I swung my hand on the car door's cold handle and furiously opened it, allowing a rush of cold air to run in before slamming it shut. My clumsy self actually managed to get my foot trapped in the spacing between the concrete and the parking lot. I had to readjust myself, and then I looked up, desperately ready to get inside. But I noticed something standing in the window to the right. Darla was now staring from the window. All I could make out was a rough outline of her, and her face was blurred from the frost. A part of me believed it was better that way, so I wouldn't have to see her emotion directly. I opened the door and scrambled inside to see Darla, who had more of a confused than what I originally anticipated disgusted look approach me. "Why are you so late?" she asked, and I was itching to tell her about the girl, but before I could say anything I was thinking about the consequences of doing so. I couldn't bear lying to her, but I couldn't tell the truth. I was stuck on what to say, and soon she would ask why I was taking so long to answer. Then a thought struck me. She would really think I was crazy, wouldn't she? Instead, I began to mouth an excuse while forcibly trying to look less guilty. "I've slept in late." "Try not to sleep in late again, okay?" she responded. I was surprised she didn't notice, but either way, I was happy I wouldn't have to tell her about the truth. She made her way over to the front desk before striking another conversation. "James, I have something that could help your case," Darla said, holding a few stained newspapers in her hand. "I think it could be beneficial, at least." I walked closer to her hand, holding the stack of newspapers as she was indicating for me to grab them. And so I did, quickly scanning over the first one. It was a job application obviously located sometime in the 90s for a child's restaurant titled Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. After a second of confusion, it snapped. There was a poorly taken picture of a brown bear next to the text. The exact brown bear named Freddy Fazbear, whose crew partially existed in my dreams as nothing but a few masks. But I remembered the TV show as it came on in the morning, and I was the type of kid who bundled up with excitement once it came on. Freddy was always my favourite out of the bunch, even topping Fredbear himself. Darla could see the surprised look in my eyes, and she hesitantly asked, "Are you okay?" And after a few seconds of snapping back into reality, I answered, yeah, I'm fine. I'll take a look at these at my desk. Thanks, Darla," I said, but I could tell she knew something was still wrong. I was a quarter of the way toward my office when I quickly paused. I had realised something. Darla must have worked during her day off, as me and her shared the same schedule. I immediately felt bad for being late, but then I reassured myself it wasn't entirely my fault. Nevertheless, I began to walk to my office yet again. I sat on my chair and examined each one carefully. The advertisement was self-explanatory, but the rest weren't. One was an article chronicling the brand new opening of an improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, but that was the ad I saw. Another had something to do with the parents being nervous about weird substances coming out of a band of animatronics. But the one that caught my eye the most was about some sort of convicted suspect for an event that took place with the killing of 5 children and their bodies were never found. That didn't make any sense. How could 5 children simply disappear in a pizzeria? Things didn't add up. For the first time in months, I was perpetuated by evidence. How many locations existed? Which article focused on which pizzeria? I suppose that I would have to look into each question myself. That must mean that even after the bite, the company never learned. Then I instantly remembered. If the pizzeria case was about a missing persons report, and there were 5 children lured into a back room, would these 2 incidents somehow connect? The client didn't put the age of the person nor the full name. The only details sprinkled on the document was that he was at the pizzeria when this happened. I began to question the legitimacy of all of this, before concluding that I would need to speak with the client. I remember Darla telling me that every piece of contact evidence was inside, and so I looked. Sure enough, there was a phone number, and I went straight towards the phone hanging above my desk. When I called the number, of course, waiting for a few seconds for them to pick up, somebody eventually answered. First there was background noise, nothing but a few sounds playing here and there, but then the receiving end responded to the call with a simple hello. Hi, I'm James Gover, an investigator who wanted to ask you a question," I asked. The response was delayed for a good 4 seconds before a response was made. "What? Are you a telemarketer?" And I responded, assuring her that I wasn't. "No, ma'am. I was just confused with the missing persons report that you had filed under the name of Mark Hamilton." Before realising that this couldn't be him. She had a high-pitched voice that seemed too subtle for it to be Mark, who labelled his gender in the file. "Mark? Do you know where he is? Oh God, please tell me where he is," she demanded with a shriveled voice. I was puzzled by what she meant and tried to ask her questions to fully understand what was going on. "Excuse me, where is he?" Everything fell silent, and all I could hear was some background noise emitting from her side. Finally, I began to hear a small sigh and listened if she would respond. He went missing a few days ago. We contacted the police who, like always, didn't do anything. We are losing hope," she said with a distilled voice. "Oh, I'm so sorry. He dropped a missing persons report a few days ago, and I was wondering about who went missing as he didn't specify any age," I said as I began to ponder what she meant by missing. "If it helps you any, he was 49 and he had a daughter, Amy, that was 4, who went missing a long time before him. She was at some children's pizzeria that I think existed early in the 80s that I'm sure he's already explained. I just don't know why he went missing, nor do I know why he waited so long to file a missing persons report, she said. But then she started another sentence. Please, did Mark tell you where he was going when he left? I told her everything I knew about him and how Darla was the only one to see him. I knew she wouldn't know anything about where he went, as she already stated that he left suddenly. The lady became more shaky and the conversation quickly ended at a normal goodbye. However, somewhere down the line I mentioned meeting at a restaurant downtown. Maybe I can get some more information from her. But I already felt terrible for calling her, but I knew that something fishy was going on here and I had to know. But then I instantly remembered. The lady said something about a girl. Could it be? And there we go, there is the end of chapter 3! Oh, this story is getting good. So, this guy, Mark Hamilton, great name by the way, came in and filed this missing person report. He lost a daughter ages ago, but in the previous chapter, we encountered a dead girl, a ghost, an apparition, whatever you want to call it, of a young girl. He estimated to be about 6. Apparently the girl was about 4. Could it be the same girl that we encountered on that dark night? Oh, everything is falling together. Everything is falling together. This is a nice build-up of a story. He's describing it well. Expand, love your stuff, my man, love your stuff. That's the last chapter for now. As soon as Expand writes the next one, he'll let me know, hopefully, and we'll go ahead and we will read the next one. But either way, guys, if you enjoyed this one, please hit that like button. It really, really is appreciated, and I'll see you soon for some more creepypasta stories and novel readings. I've been Razzbowski, you've been the beautiful bastards, as always, for watching, and I love each and every single one of you. Goodbye!